Today's episode of the GoldCast is sponsored by ACLs for Sale. Do you have an ACL that's for sale? Because we have a quarterback who needs one. So if you have an ACL for sale, let us know in the comments, and we'll be happy to get that deal going at ACLs for Sale. There's a young man by the name of Jimothy Garoppolo that needs your help. And so does this whole 49ers team. Now, Raymond, before we get started, why don't you let them know where they can find the GoldCast?
For the time being, you can find us on the GoldCast. You can also follow us on Instagram at facebook.com/the GoldCast. You can also follow us on Twitter at the GoldCast _. However, we have been talking about the external platforms that GoldCast is on, and we think that logistically it makes a little bit more sense to consolidate some of those. And since YouTube and all of the audio platforms seem to be the most conducive to the podcast, since we're a podcast show, we're not a news report team. We don't talk about articles. I mean, we used to share them in the past, but even that has kind of dwindled in terms of the access that we have to posting stuff and talking about stuff. We kind of just save it for the GoldCast nowadays. The best sources will have always been, in our opinion, the YouTube, iTunes, and Stitcher are the best platforms to find us on. And you can subscribe to those, obviously, and get notifications when we go live. And in YouTube's case, you obviously have a comment feature where you can actually give your feedback on the podcast, what we talked about, the topics, etc. And we, of course, always try to do our best to answer all the questions or comments and try to engage in conversation. So, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be dialing all those back, with the exception of YouTube, iTunes, and Stitcher, where you can like, subscribe, and comment.
Boom. Boom, boom, boom. All right, here we go. So, it was a tough Sunday. We're going to get into it. There's lots to discuss. I have a lot of questions for Raymond. I wanted to share kind of what I'm seeing, and it's just interesting. We'll talk about it more after the intro, but it's just interesting that, it seems like every time one hole is plugged, water comes shooting out of another side of the barrel. We're going to get into it. We're going to explain what that means. But first, as always, of course, the GoldCast intro. Let's get busy.
San Francisco, are you ready?
This is the GoldCast.
Boom! Welcome to another edition of the GoldCast. We are the voice of the Bay. I'm your host, Rudy Solis III, and with me is my brother, my co-host,
Raymond Solis I, baby.
Boom! Yeah, buddy. Woo! Was that an ass whooping or what?
This one was a really tough one to swallow.
Yeah, it was.
But for some reason, I just kept watching, just hoping that things would come together and they would be the competitive team that we've known them to be for the last 2 years under the, year and a half under the Shanahan-Lynch regime. So, but that never came to fruition. And of course, that happened last year too. It almost looked like it was going to happen against Kansas City, but we were able to come within one possession. But it never really came together this game. So I think this is just this is the difference between where an elite team is and how far we are. This is kind of almost a reflection of, a dividing line between this is what the elite teams can do, and this is kind of where you guys are at. And this is the gap that you need to fulfill in terms of, getting depth, getting healthy, finding players that can actually break the mold and start to make a consistent game in, game out impact. And, I think some of it's players and I think some of it's coaching, but either way, it was a really tough loss to swallow.
Yeah. If you remember correctly, going out of last week, right, the big conversation everybody was having was about Robert Saleh and the defensive coordinating of this team. And there were a lot of question marks around it, even though, having said that, there's a lot of different areas. There's a lot of different mistakes that happened in the fourth quarter, in the first quarter of last week's game that really could have really contributed to that overall loss. It was about 5 mistakes accumulated together that really, I think, kind of did us in. And so it really it this this whole scenario this week was all about the defensive coordinator. And I thought Robert Saleh drew up a good game plan. I thought they really attacked Gurley and really did not allow him to be the threat he usually is. They did a wonderful job of stuffing him, wonderful job of keeping him under control. And then what happens is the O-line completely falls apart, which they also did late in that game last week as well, allowing 7 sacks. And then we have, which also helps lead to 2 fumbles, and then we have 2 interceptions from C.J. Beathard. And now this week, the offense fails us. And like I said before the intro, it feels like right now this team is like it's like a barrel full of water, and there's holes in the barrel, and you plug one hole, and then boom, water comes flying out the other hole, and it just keeps going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And last week it was Robert Saleh. This week it's the offensive line, and once again, the big eye to C.J. Beathard. And again, like Henry, kind of going on what you're saying, this is exactly the difference, right? This is the difference. This is elite teams with depth and a solid system are able to weather these storms. The 49ers do not have a solid system, at least on defense. They have a pretty solid system on offense. They just don't have the talent to always to pull it off. And so what you have here is a team that just, I think, is wildly inconsistent, and it varies, week to week, and the injuries continue to mount, and the players, again, like I said, it just seems like every time we have one hole plugged, another one opens and water comes flying out. And it's just a little frustrating, and it's tough to see because obviously we love the 49ers, you love the 49ers, and this is now the 3rd year in a row we've had to go through a brutal season. I still think there's a lot more prowess to this team than to previous regimes. I will take the Kyle Shanahan team over Chip Kelly's team, over Jim Tomsula. I'll take this way more than either of those, but it is tough to see. It is quite the pill to swallow, Raymond. It feels the size of my fist, that damn pill. But I want to talk about this. What did you think? So, last week, again, like I said, going into this past Sunday, the week 6 conversation was, the defensive coordinator, Robert Saleh. And now this week, I think we're going to hear it all about the offensive line and C.J. Beathard. But what do you think about that? This idea that they're just inconsistent all the way around, and really not able to cohesively pull this off as a unit.
To me, I think the key word there is cohesive, and the team is not cohesive. One week it's this side of the football, another week it's that side of the football. Although I would say this season, majority of the time, I feel like the offense has been carrying the defense, which is what I thought was going to be this year's deal, even after Garoppolo went down. However, this game in particular, defense finally kind of came together and put together a solid effort. The opening drive from the Rams was 3 and out. The next play, they just yielded a field goal. Or the next series, the third series was another 4 plays, and then they were done. The 4th series after that was a touchdown because the Rams just got momentum from us giving up the fumble in 1 play on our 3rd drive. And then the first drive was 6 plays. It got stopped. The next drive was 7 plays, resulted in a pump. The first series was 6 plays, fumble. The next series was 7 plays and a punt. The third series was 1 play and a fumble. So, and then the next series after that was 3 plays and a safety. So every single time the offense got the ball, they found a way, with the exception of the lone series punt, found a way to give the ball right back to the Rams. And when you do that, you put your defense on the field. And because of the nature of the defense, what the defense is constantly, it's like every NFL defense, like almost kind of they're playing on their heels. They're not trying to go forward in any way. They're actually trying to physically trying to halt the progress of the other team. So it's a much more difficult task. It's easy when you're trying to actually gain momentum and just build momentum and gain yardage on the field versus another team that they're not trying to gain any yardage. All they're trying to do is stop you dead in your tracks. It's really tough, especially now with the way the rules are clearly swayed into the favor of the offensive side of the football. But when you put the defense on the field constantly, and they're not getting a break, then eventually they're going to break. And that's what happened. The second series, the Rams got a field goal. 2 series later, they get a touchdown. We held Todd Gurley to only, 63 yards on the ground, something like that, which is really good for him. He still got 2 touchdowns out of the game. He did great, in terms of fantasy points, at least for my team. But Malcolm Brown also got 64 yards, so they still amassed 120. They still amassed 120 yards, collectively. We also amassed over 100 yards collectively too, but it just was a very much less effective 100 yards rushing on the ground from our side versus their side. But overall, we're still like a top 10 rushing defense. We're just a bottom of the barrel passing defense. We had 6 tackles for a loss this game, which was excellent. I thought that was really good. I was really happy to see that. Not a whole lot in the passing game. Adrian Colbert went down. He's now on IR. Him and Nikello Witherspoon, no picks again. Of course, we don't get interception. We lead the league in turnovers, meaning we give up the ball to the opposing teammates more than any other team in the NFL. And conversely, we take away the ball the least of any team in the NFL. So we have the 2 worst categories you can possibly have on the spectrum of a very vital NFL statistical measure where we give up the ball the most and we don't take away and we take the ball away the least. So that's how bad things are right now, and it sucks. It sucks as a fan. I'm trying to take away some positives here. 6 tackles for a loss as a defense. They stopped the Rams 3 out of the 4 first series, only yielding a field goal, which was great to see. But the offense wouldn't do them any favors whatsoever, aside from that last drive before the halftime. But at that point, it was 22-7. There was no turning back, even if we had shut the Rams out the remainder of the game. So that was really frustrating to see. And, I don't, every week someone goes down. So I don't get what's going on with the strength and conditioning, if that's really an issue, or if it just happens to be just a weird anomalous year, back-to-back year with this team where they just have to deal with injury after injury after injury, or if they just, happen to select players that just really can't keep it together. I know John Lynch was injured his first 3 years of the season, and then he became a 10-time Pro Bowler. So maybe some of these guys have to go through those growing pains of acclimating to the physical wear and tear of an NFL season before they really kind of put their strength and conditioning regimes together. Much like it's a reflection of the team. The team's not quite there, and they're very inconsistent. And offensively, George Kittle was amazing. 5 receptions, 98 yards, 1 touchdown. If he keeps up with this pace, he's among the top 3 best tight ends in the NFL as a second-year tight end. So he's on his way to perhaps potentially getting a Pro Bowl nod if he keeps up with his production. So that's great. Marquise Goodwin, after having 2 touchdowns, 126 yards last week, was a virtual no-show today. He had 2 catches for 24 yards. Raheem Mostert caught 4 catches for 19 yards and very ineffective. Kyle Juszczyk, somebody I'd like to see get a little bit more involved, only had 2 catches, 18 yards, 3 targets. Trent Taylor continues to be a non-factor after really showing some promise last year, especially when Jimmy Garoppolo took over. 1 catch, 6 yards, 3 targets. Pierre Garçon, 1 catch, 5 targets. He has yet to live up to the contract we paid him. I think everyone was hoping that he would be the second coming of Anquan Boldin, but he has yet to do that, and he missed almost all of last year. Garrett Selleck is very much on a decline this season. He seems to get more penalties than catches this year. So I don't quite understand what's going on there, but that's disappointing. Kendrick Bourne can't, find himself an open target. So offensively, it was just super sluggish, very ineffective. Obviously, a much more better defense than what we saw in Green Bay, despite them tightening things up in the fourth quarter of that game. But overall, I'd like to kind of stop ranting a little bit, but that's what I'm seeing.
It is a rough road. Obviously, our secondary is brutal. Our offensive line really let us down. And overall, you know, the offensive line had done really well, but obviously Wade Phillips really wrote up a good game plan and was able to truly expose the 49ers offense in a way that no team has really had done this year. I mean, we'd given up more sacks than I had appreciated, but this week was just, I mean, Wade Phillips exposed us bad. It was bad. And that was tough to see. This is also the first game, Ray, I saw where I felt like I watched the Niners give up. I sat with a bunch of buddies. We're all sitting down to watch the game. Everyone's excited. You know, we're hanging out, going. We got Red Zone on one TV. We got the Niners, Rams on the other. And we're pumped. And someone in the group, as we're all sitting eating barbecue, someone in the group goes, hey, you know, the thing I like about your 49ers, he wasn't even a Niners fan. I don't know what team they got rooted for. Because the thing I like about your Niners is that they never quit. You know, these guys are in the hunt. They're in the fight. So many of these games, you guys are like right there. You guys lose in like the final moments. You guys lose by so few points. And I was like, yeah, you know, Kyle Shanahan's lost 7 games by like 3 points or less. Like it's the smallest margin of loss and most games all put together under one coach. It's a really weird stat to be the owner of, but he is. And you're right. We're always in it. And unfortunately, this past Sunday, we're recording this on Monday, October 22nd, but last night was the first night I genuinely felt like I watched the Niners give up. Like I think they just got so overwhelmed by about the middle third, end of third, going into the fourth. It felt like to me that I saw the team give up. And that bummed me out. That was really hard to see. Like to see the 49ers look morally defeated on the field and just really frustrated. And that broke my heart. That really bugged me. Did you see that?
Yeah, they looked morally defeated this time around versus before. They always, you know, I think it's because they always feel like they're in it, but this game just seemed to, like, you know, it's just like how many, you know, think about it from their perspective. It's like, damn, here's another game where we just can't seem to get it together. We can't seem to get the chips and the dominoes to fall in our favor. We just continue to shoot ourselves in the own foot. When is the discipline going to really sink in? When's Beathard going to protect the ball? When are players not going to fumble the football? When is the defense going to start sacking the quarterback? So, you know, but it just didn't seem to happen, and everyone just seemed morally defeated. In the post-game interviews, you could still get a sense of that, but everyone kept going through the verbal motions of just like, we got to keep working at it. But you could see everybody giving that big sigh of just defeat, like, God damn, going through this crap again, second year in a row. You know, going through the same. Now we're 1-6. You lose 3 more, you are right back where you started. You know, so, and next week they have actually a genuine opportunity to bounce back. In fact, the next 2 weeks they have a genuine opportunity to really get back into some better spirits in terms of the schedule. You know, and we'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end of the podcast. But yeah,
I would say the next 4 weeks we're in Arizona, then we're home for the Raiders, then we're home for New York, and then we're in Tampa Bay. All 4 of those teams are more than beatable, but for this team, more than beatable. We can win the next 4 in a row and at least end the season with some goddamn dignity, you know. But let's just hope they do. Raiders are garbage. New York is garbage. Tampa Bay is they're whatever, and Arizona's garbage. Like we've got what's coming up is the next 4 weeks is 4 weeks of the garbage bowl. Let's just hope we can come out on top on our first of 4 of the garbage bowls. These are the garbage bowls. That's what I'm going to call these. So next week is our first garbage bowl, and then we have Oakland at home, New York at home. Then we go to Tampa, and let's just clean up on this garbage bowl. At least get us back to 5 wins. Get us at 5. And then we've got Seattle, Denver, Seattle, Chicago, and then LA again. Man, they were, you know, this schedule was built for Jimmy G, and it's so obvious, and it's just not going to happen. Not going to happen. This is way too early, but I want to pose a couple questions since this is kind of where we're at right now, right? This is where we're at. I want to talk way too early about next year's draft. I want to talk about it. Let's just talk about it for a second. Couple things, because, I mean, we have to start looking at this stuff. This is where we're at. We might be looking at a top 5 draft pick again this year. We'll see what happens when we get through the garbage bowls of the next 4 weeks. We'll see if we can take care of business through the garbage bowls, then maybe we got a shot. But Raymond, I'm going to tell you what I think is most important. What are the things I think? What are the positions we need to draft? And then I want to hear what you think, and then I want to hear what positions you think we need to draft. All right? You ready for this?
Oh my God, we're already having draft discussions.
That's where it's at. All right, here we go. Here's what I think. O-line, again, more protection. Another pass rusher. A cornerback. And a quarterback. What do you think when I say that? And what would be what do you think are the most important positions of need right now?
Say that order one more time.
Sure. O-line, pass rusher, corner, and a quarterback.
I would say corner, pass rush, O-line, wide receiver, in that order. That's what I would say.
But no quarterback, huh?
No.
You don't think we need you don't think we need a quarterback? You don't think we need insurance?
No.
Wow. I think we need insurance. I think we need to step up above CJ Beathard, and this is now the
Beathard's young enough. Beathard's young enough, and you just pick up a young agent. That's what I would do.
But the problem is, here's the thing is that I just think he's a backup quarterback at best. I think what you try to do is draft a starter, someone that can compete for the job, and just in case if Jimmy Garoppolo goes down again, then we got somebody here just in case, because this is now the last 2 of 3 years he has not been able to fulfill his starting position role. 3 years ago, he had to start for Tom Brady. He only made it through several games, got hurt. It wasn't a season-ending injury, but it was long enough that he was unable to fulfill his job of starting for 4 full games. Then last year, only had to play 5, did fine. Then this year, ACL tear. 2 of the last 3 years, he has been unable to fulfill the role he was expected to fill. And I think you need to have a little bit of insurance. I think not investing in somebody that could potentially be a better upside than CJ Beathard in the event that Jimmy G goes down again next year, I think that would be foolish.
CJ Beathard's obviously still developing, but if they were to get a quarterback, it'd probably be something similar to when we drafted Beathard, 3rd, 4th round, something like that. You wouldn't spend a high draft pick on that.
I'm fine with not spending a high draft pick. I just think it's an area that we can't ignore. We can't ignore this. So I just think it's something that we should do. I don't know if it's something we will do. I just think it's something we should do.
I mean, maybe, I don't know. I just don't know if quarterbacks, should be worth their time right now. I think I would even prefer that if they got a quarterback, he'd be a later round, like 5th, 6th or something. They got Nick Mullins. I'm okay with him working his way up. He looks pretty decent against lower tier players. He's someone that could scale up. But for the Cardinals for the next game, this is a game we can win. This is a team that's 1-6, just like us. They just fired their offensive coordinator, Mike McCoy, and they promoted Byron Leftwich. Yes, the former quarterback Byron Leftwich, and he has no play calling experience. So he can either be worse than Mike McCoy or just as bad as Mike McCoy, which gives us a decisive edge over this week's contest, despite the fact that we lost against them in the first meeting, which we clearly should have won that game, but for some reason just threw a dud out in that game too. In terms of turnovers, that was another one.
Yeah, so let's talk about this. This is the first round of the Garbage Bowls. So, Raymond, round 1 right here. What do you think the Vegas line is? If you were a betting man, what do you think the Vegas line is for the first of week 1 of our Garbage Bowls?
This one most likely is going to be decided by 3 points or less, considering what these teams are incapable of doing.
So, it's funny you say that. You're close. This one, Vegas has listed as a pick'em. So this one is listed as a pick'em, which basically means that Vegas doesn't know what the hell to do with this line. Vegas doesn't have a decision. They're like, pick 'em. Who do you think is going to win? That's how garbage this game is. This is a true garbage bowl. The very first of the garbage bowls was coming up this week at Arizona. So Ray, who do you think wins? You got to pick 'em now. So it's a pick 'em. So give me your bet.
This one, I'm gonna pick Niners by 7.
Thank God. Give us the win. Just give it to us. Just give it to us, football gods. Give us the damn win. All right. Okay. I like it. Niners by 7. I will take it. I think we're going to win every week. I do. I always go in with the hope that we're going to win. This is what I do, and I'm going to give this little advice to the fans. Advice to the fellow faithful. All right? What you do as a fan during these losing times, what you do as a fan is you remind yourself on Sunday morning that it's any given Sunday. You remind yourself that it doesn't matter what happened last week. This week is a brand new week. And this week, anything is possible because any team can beat any other team on any given Sunday. So what I do is I wash away last week and I wake up at 9 a.m. on Sunday and I get up and I get excited and I get ready to watch some American football with the goddamn San Francisco 49ers. That's what I do. And I suggest that's what you do. Wash away last week, have a short-term memory, and get into it and get prepared for the new week coming up. That's what I do. Ray, what do you do?
For me, I've kind of adopted the 49ers philosophy, which I think they've gotten from Richard Sherman. At least that's the impression I got from post-game interviews, is you have 24 hours. You have 24 hours, and then you watch this game, and then you move on to the next one. That's kind of how I saw it. I saw them kind of doing the same thing in the post-game interview, so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do the same thing because I don't feel like sitting here and dwelling them. I know we have, a cousin who we love dearly that likes to dwell on things a little bit and, has a weird way of expressing his frustration with the team, but I'm kind of going a different direction. I just kind of want to kind of almost mirror what the team does. And it sounds silly, but not too silly if you're a fanatical fan, like a lot of us are. But that's kind of just adopt the team philosophy. I had 24 hours to get over it. Now I'm over it. It's 8:31. The game ended, several hours ago in terms of a 24-hour span. So now my time to gripe about it is over. At least, obviously we're going to get through the gripes for the podcast, but as far as dwelling on it, I'm kind of ready to go to the Cardinals. The Cardinals are down. They're a horse that's down right now. We have a chance to go into Arizona and kick them, and that's what I'm hoping the Niners do, because we sorely need a win to really. I don't. This team does not need to mirror the same stretch of the first 10 games as last season. I really think that the next 4 games they have a chance to come out. Obviously, best case scenario, winning all 4, but next case, at least 3 out of 4. I'd say Buccaneers are probably the lone team out of that group that might be able to put a stinger on us, because they're 3-3. So you never know what you're going to get out of them, but they do have an offense that can put points on the board when they put it together. So we'll just have to see how things pan out. But other than that, we have a chance to win 3 straight games at the best right now. And I hope that the Niners do that. And it starts with Arizona this Sunday. And I think that we got a legitimate shot at doing that.
We sure do. So begins our quest for 4. 4 garbage bowl wins. Not 3, Ray. 4. At Arizona, home for Oakland, at New York, or home for New York, at Tampa Bay. All games more than winnable for this 49er team. The garbage bowls begin this coming Sunday. So what say you, 49er faithful, GoldCast Nation?
It does.
It does. Absolutely.
The Giants are 1-6 too.
They are? Uh-huh.
They just lost tonight against the Falcons.
Mm-hmm. So what say you, GoldCast Nation? What do you think? Do you agree with our controversial conversation at the very end here? Do the 49ers need to draft a quarterback next year as an insurance, just in case we end up in this scenario again? How do you feel about the 4 garbage bowls coming up? Do you believe we can take all 4? I think we do. I think we could have 5 wins by the end of the garbage bowls in the next 4 weeks. So I want to hear your thoughts on that. Let us know what you think about the next upcoming games. And of course, should we draft a quarterback as insurance for next year? What say you? So concludes another edition of the GoldCast. Oh, Ray, wait, before we go, why don't you let them know? Where can they find you?
You can find me at Twitter at Ray Solis. You can also find me on Instagram at Ray Solis1.
Boom. You can find me on Instagram at Rudy Solis3, on Twitter at Rudy Solis3RD. So concludes another edition of the GoldCast. We are the voice of the Bay. I'm your host, Rudy Solis III, and with me is my brother, my co-host,
Raymond Solis the first, baby.
Boom. We'll see you next time. Same GoldCast time, same GoldCast channel.
This is the GoldCast.